Hi, my name is Naomi. I read 7 books in the month of December, and here is how I like them all. The first book that I read is Spinning Silver by Naomi Novak. This book follows 3 girls mainly. The first girl is Miriam. She is kind of forced to take on her dad's footstep of being a moneylender because her dad isn't really a great money lender. Her dad has a hard time collecting the money that he lent out, so she is after they themselves are being poor because no one is paying them back, she is kind of forced up to step in and actually start collecting what they are owed. And Wanda is a girl who is working for Miriam's family to pay off her dad's loans because her dad doesn't have the money to pay it back. And he is also very abusive towards her. So she actually really enjoys working for their family because she kind of gets to escape the abuse from home. And we also have Irina, who ends up marrying a Tsar who has his secrets of his own, and the story kind of brings them kind of together because there are some magical forces happening that they have to kind of fight off. And I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was really great how the female characters were really strong and they each did something to better their own lives, or they did something to protect their own family, and despite not being given like the greatest circumstances, they all did their best, and they kind of come on top despite their struggles. And I really liked the fantasy element in it. I gave this book a 3.5 out of 5. Although I did enjoy the book, it does get sometimes a little bit confusing to read because it changes from POV to POV without really saying whose point of view that it is that we are reading. So, and it doesn't just switch between the 3 girls. Sometimes you get a POV of a minor character, and you kind of have to really think about whose it is that you are reading about. But other than that, it was a very good book. The second book I read was The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. I read this book because I was doing a book on ranking Riley Sager's book, and this was one of my most favorite books out of Riley Sager's work. This book is about Casey. After her husband passes away, she's been kind of turning into alcohol for comfort, and she is an actress, and she gets kind of paparazzi'd going on a drinking binge, and her mother kind of advises her to go to their lake house. So it's more secluded, and she advises her to kind of like lay low for a little bit. And that's when she meets her new neighbor, Catherine, and she gets kind of very invested in her life because not much is going on her, so she starts watching her neighbors through like a binocular, and that's when Catherine disappears, and she kind of suspects that maybe her husband had something to do with it, and the book kind of picks up from there, and it is a very good story. I thought you get a lot more than what you were expecting. There is lots of like twists and turns, which I always love in a thriller book. So I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. And the third book I read was Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. And this book is probably one of the worst books that I have read in 2023. I did give this book a 2-star out of 5. And the book is about an ice skater named Anastasia and a hockey player named Nathan. They go to the same college and they're kind of forced to share a rink because one of their rink gets destroyed. And yeah, this book, there's not much for me to say other than that, like, they are the main point of this book. I felt like it's that these two are very horny people and they really like getting together with each other. I think if you just wanted like a simple smut, you will probably like it. And I actually started reading this book because I know a lot of people liked it from TikTok. And if you loved it, that's not like a... It's not like a... I'm glad one of us loved it. It's not like a knock on your tastes at all. I just didn't really know what I was going into. I think even if a book has smut, it can have like a good plot into it. But this plot of this book and just like the storylines in this book kind of made me uncomfortable throughout the entire book. There is one scene in particular where they are in a back of an Uber with all of their friends. It's over capacity and they decide to like do things anyway, and that is very uncomfortable. I don't find that very sexy. And then her best friend at the end of this is like, did you guys do anything? I smelt it, and I'm like, that's a little nasty. And also throughout the entire book, Anastasia is kind of like described as like take no nonsense type of a girl, but then she is kind of like a pushover to her ice skating partner. So it's like, okay, I would love to see you like actually stand up yourself to him, because you seem to do that with like everyone else, and you were described as this person who's really good at that. And then she also gets like pregnant, or maybe this is a spoiler, so maybe spoiler alert, but she also gets pregnant at the end of this book, and that just kind of also made no sense because she's described as like she wants to take her career, like that's the only thing she is like very focused on in the beginning. And she's like, oh, my coach was a great skater, and then like she got pregnant, and then like her career took a backseat, now she coaches. And then despite all of that, like she gets pregnant and seems to be really happy about it. So yeah. There's not much else to say. I didn't enjoy this book at all, but like I said, if you just want a simple smut and then you don't really care about plots or storylines, I still think it might be a good book for you, but it just wasn't for me, and that's okay. The fourth book I read is None of This True by Lisa Jewell, and this is a book about a podcaster named Alex. She looks like she has her whole like life together, and like she looks like she has a life to be envied by other people by the outside of it. And she meets Josie, and she's kind of this like, I guess, a mousy housewife type woman who doesn't seem like she has that much going on. And they meet on their birthdays at the same restaurant together, and they're like, oh, we're birthday twins, and they kind of bond over this. And later Josie finds Alex and kind of lets her know that Josie has a great story that she could tell on her podcast, because she has like lots of secrets and crazy, like a very good story to tell her. And they kind of start getting together to tell Josie's story, and things just start taking a very crazy turn. Yeah, this was a very good book. This is a book that you just want to keep on reading. And even after I was done with this book, I kept thinking about it. I was even like searching up like what did the ending really mean. I think it's great when a book can do that. So I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. This was a very good thriller. And fifth book I read was Heir of Fire by Sarah J. Maas, and we continued on the story of Selena, and there is I felt like the book really took like another turn as far as like plot. Like it just, they added more people, like Manon. I don't know if that's how you really say her name, but she is from like the Witch clan, and they are going through like battle to see like who would be the best witch clan. And that in the storyline was very interesting. And we meet like Robin, who is a fae who is helping Selena work through her fae abilities in Wendland. And yeah, I mean, the book was great. I think it just, I really liked how it delved more into the story. I felt like previous to this book, it was very like, I don't know, lighthearted in the Throne of Glass terms. I mean, obviously it was always like high stakes, but it just took it up a notch. So I still liked it. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. Still really interesting and great. I'm deeply into it, and I'm excited to see where the story turns. And I think by this point I'm like excited to read the next book, because I feel like just the stakes are just a little bit more higher. The sixth book that I read was Tomorrow, Tomorrow, and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zeven. And this book, I think, deserves all the hype that it gets, because it is a very great book. It's wonderfully written. It's about two childhood friends, Sam and Sadie, coming together to make a video game together. And there is so much more, but that is the simple like basis of the story, and we really get to know each of their characters, and like how their life goes from like childhood to adulthood. And it's great because I really feel like Gabrielle did a great job of depicting real people and their emotions. Like no one is really perfect. Everyone had like something they are working on, or it was a great book. It's not only was the story great, but you just feel a lot of things, good feelings throughout the book. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. And the seventh book I read was Iron Flame by Rebecca Ross, and I think this is why I only really read 7 books this month, because this took a really long time to finish. This book felt like I was reading like 3 to 4 books. And I think this book could have been like a shorter book, because in the book, in the beginning, there is we focus on a lot of like Satan and Violet's relationship and how it's gonna go after Fourth Wing, but they just kind of go back and forth about the same argument a lot, and I don't think that was necessarily needed. And I did like the later half of the book where you get all like the same things you love from the first book, which is the very high stakes fantasy like war element. So I enjoyed that, but in the beginning of the plot, it did kind of frustrate me because it didn't feel like the plot was going anywhere. It just kind of like, I was like, okay, I get it, like they are having a discourse and they're having a hard time meeting in the middle, but like it felt like I got reminded that over and over and over again, which felt kind of I don't know, it kind of felt repetitive and old. So I still enjoyed this book, but I did give it a 3.5 out of 5. So yeah, that's all the books I read this month, and I hope to see you guys next one.